What is going on, snooker fans, and welcome to this week's Snooker Digest episode. And it is another episode where we will be talking about a brand new ranking event winner. After Zak Surety broke his own duck in Northern Ireland, last week it was the turn of Yize to claim a first career title, and he'd done so in some style too, beating Judd Trump, Barry Hawkins, Zhao, and then John Higgins in the final en route to the trophy. Now, his win against Judd Trump would have been worthy of a mention on its own after he produced a pretty stunning comeback to win 6-4 from 4-0 down in a 6-frame burst which limited Trump to just 18 points. And that result was also a little bit of revenge for Wu after he lost 5-4 to Judd in last season's Saudi Arabian Masters, having been 4-0 ahead in that match. And this title has been coming. He reached 2 finals last season at the English Open, where he almost pulled off a huge comeback to beat Neil Robertson, and then at the Scottish Open when he was denied by his compatriot Li Paifan. Much like the current world champion, Yize is another incredibly talented youngster from the Far East who is making this really difficult sport of ours look ridiculously easy. And you wouldn't really say he's developed another side to his game either to make himself more solid. Like most players of around his age, the only way he really knows how to play the sport is just to attack, to knock in a long red and make a big break from it. And you just have to look at the players he beat last week to show you how good he is at doing just that. And I think actually what impressed me the most last week from him was the performance he produced in the second session of the final. He was 5-2 up in the first session and squandered opportunities to extend that lead even further. So when Higgins got back to just 5-4 behind, it looked like he may have wrestled back control. But straight from the restart in the evening session, Wu quickly refound his stride again and in complete truth dominated Higgins, and to do that to win your very first ranking event is very impressive. The result also puts him into the top 16 just in time to have a seeding for the UK Championship at the end of this month, and it does feel like it has pretty much guaranteed him the chance to make his debut at the Masters as well. So all in all, a fantastic week for the 22-year-old. Now a word on John Higgins, who of course will be disappointed not to have claimed a 34th ranking title, but his run to the final does continue to build on what has been a fairly consistent season so far. He's also made one semi-final and a couple of other quarterfinals this season as well, all of which are results which help to boost his position in the one-year ranking list. Now, he may have seen last week as a bit of a missed opportunity. He had the chance to really use all of his years of experience to beat his very young, very inexperienced opponent in the final. But there's really very little you can blame John for when he was ultimately beaten by a man who had been playing out of his skin all week and kept those levels up in the final. Still, his standout win against the in-form Shaun Murphy in the quarterfinals was the highlight, and he does look good for joining Mark Williams as being another ranking event winner in his 50s very soon. Elsewhere, Zak Surety followed up his win in Northern Ireland by securing a first ever win against Ronnie O'Sullivan, having lost all 4 of their previous meetings with an aggregate score of 23-5. Zhao made it to his second semi-final of the season and the first to come at a ranking event after a trio of wins against compatriots Fan Zhengyi, Li Paifan and Si Xiaowei, before then getting the better of Mark Selby in the quarterfinals. And Zhao has come under a bit of scrutiny, none more so than by Stephen Hendry, about whether he has been suffering under the tag of being the reigning world champion. But last week's run may well be the catalyst for him turning things around this season. Zak Surety also knocked in the second maximum break of his career, both of which have come in China, and of course is yet another to add to the overall tally for this season, taking the total to 14 and just 1 behind the record now. And it was also a good week overall for Zak, because in addition to the maximum he made against Aaron Hill, he also beat Zhao Guodong and Neil Robertson on his way to only his second ever career quarterfinal. And also, whilst we're on the topic of centuries, Bai Yu Lu made the highest break ever made by a woman on the professional circuit with a 145 break in her first round defeat. Now, unfortunately, barring a bit of a miracle, she will likely be dropping off tour at the end of the season, but you continue to see evidence that she could go on to do bigger things in the game if she keeps developing in the way that she already has been. And then I did also want to mention Steve Maguire to finish off this video, because overall, you would have to say it's been a very strong 2025 for him. At the start of the year, his ranking was only going downwards, but he made it to the final of the Welsh Open earlier in the year, then won the Championship League over the summer, and got himself to the semi-finals last week too, which has pushed him back up to 25th in the world. A win over Kyron Wilson last week as well means you suspect he will be feeling pretty good about his chances of qualifying for the UK Championship in a couple of weeks as well. But ultimately though, the moment belongs to Wu Yize. Unfortunately, his win came too late to qualify for the Champion of Champions that's happening now. But he does qualify for next season's already. And like I say, into the top 16, plenty of things to look forward to. And just like Zak Surety, it's now a question of can he build upon this success?